Hello, everybody. It's Sunday, the 10th of January of 2021, and it's time for my second weekly wrap up in this new year. I'm going to talk about politics today, about what happened in the United States over the course of the last week, starting on Wednesday, and I'm going to talk about two books that I finished in this first full week of the new year. So let's get started. Yeah, Wednesday was the day when the votes of the 50 states, the electoral votes, were to be certified in Congress in a unified session of Senate and Congress. And Vice President Mike Pence was the chair of this session, and everybody knows what happened. Most of us were pretty shocked, although I think most of us could also expect what would happen on this Wednesday, the 6th of January, that goes into American history as the second time that the Capitol was stormed, this time by Americans. First time it was in 1812 during the British-American War. I should get fired up a little bit more. The President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, the beacon of democracy, the most powerful man in the world, he incited an insurrection against the United States. He tried to incite a coup. He was sending, together with his amazing son, Donald Trump Jr., and his lawyer or consigliere, Rudy Giuliani, he sent a couple of thousand.
And we need to march on the Capitol today.
We are going to take our country back.
We're coming for you, and we're going to have a good time.
Storm it, to show the people, to fight, to combat, as Giuliani put it, to fight the aggressiveness of the speeches of both Donald Trump and his son and his lawyer were incredible. And then it happened. The guards, the Capitol Police, who was supposed to guard the Capitol, were overwhelmed within seconds. Sometimes they opened the doors. Some of them opened the doors to so-called protesters. I watched this on PBS. I was a little bit angry at PBS because they do a very good coverage of the whole story. But the amazing Judy Woodruff and Yamiche Alcindor and Lisa Desjardins, they called these people the whole time protesters. And I thought, no, these people aren't protesters. These people are domestic terrorists. They are terrorists. They are trying to overthrow the legitimate government of the United States. And that's what they tried to do. And they even succeeded. They succeeded in stopping the most important process of that day in the whole nation to certify the electoral vote for a couple of hours. And nobody actually knew what would happen. Lindsey Graham, the senator of South Carolina, not my best friend, though, but he found some words that really, I think, were right after they returned to the session. Graham said, enough is enough. And he said, these people who came into the Capitol today, they had rucksacks the size of my desk, and they could have killed us all. They were hunting for politicians. Some of them wore zip ties. And I guess that if they would have found people that Donald Trump has promoted hatred against, people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and even Vice President Mike Pence at that moment, because he wasn't willing to break all the rules, and Trump denounced him for that, there were people who started shouting, "Hang Mike Pence." And there were people with Confederate flags in the Capitol. This is absolutely unbelievable what happened last Thursday. The pictures went around the world, and the whole world, except for some countries, I guess, for some people in some countries, were scared and shocked. I guess that Vladimir Putin was kind of amused when he saw those pictures, and he has enjoyed. When I was watching YouTube, I was watching PBS NewsHour, and I saw actually the moment when the domestic terrorists, called protesters by PBS in the beginning, when they sort of came towards the Capitol police outside the Capitol.
In 2 hours, this woman will be dead.
We are now walking down the inaugural path to the Capitol building.
Oh, there we go.
And they had it very easily. They could make their way into the Capitol, where a lot of other Capitol police officers defended the politicians and helped them to get into safety. Because otherwise, who knows, maybe congressmen and women or senators would have been harmed and even killed by this angry, hateful mob. So I asked myself, why the heck is there so little police that day? I can't believe it. And because we had seen the huge amounts of police that guarded the Capitol when the Black Lives Matter demonstrations were in Washington, D.C. a couple of months earlier. That was a black demonstration, so there were hundreds of heavily armed National Guard and Capitol Police persons who guarded the Capitol, and no chance for any protester who ever would have had the idea to get into the Capitol. Many people have said, and I agree with them, that afterwards, that if these protesters or if these people would have been black or Muslims or both, there would have been a bloodbath and hundreds of those people would have been killed. But until now, until Sunday, the 10th of January, 4 days after, I heard on BBC, or was it ABC today, that 18 persons have been arrested and they will be charged with several counts of breaching federal property, stealing federal property and things like that, but not of domestic terrorism. I haven't heard that charge yet. It might come, but I haven't heard that yet. So I did another dive into police. You know, Donald Trump has always praised the men and women in blue. He loves them. He has always verbalized his great admiration for the people in blue. And I actually looked up, is there a number to find how many police officers have voted for Donald Trump in the last election? There isn't. I didn't find that number, but I found the number of 2016, which I thought is quite telling. There is a poll that one of the biggest police unions, the largest police unions in the United States, actually have endorsed Donald Trump, even for this election in 2020. But there's a poll from 2016 that I found from the largest police union in the United States. They had a poll and only 3,700 of the 60,000 members have answered the poll. Who are you going to vote for? Are you voting for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton? And yeah, 84% of those 3,700 officers said they would vote for Donald Trump, and 8% would vote for Hillary Clinton. That's 84 to 8. So no question where the solidarity, where the affinity of policemen and women in the United States lies. That is not a conspiracy theory, that is fact. Now this is over. It's over, and it's not over, because my sources tell me, and you can look on the internet and you find the sources yourself, that on the right-wing app Parler, which I have on my phone just to look sometimes in the abyss of hell, to look what people. That's actually also a story that is very interesting, because I downloaded Parler one day before it was banned from Google Play to look what's happening on this app. And the first suggestions of people I should follow when I had downloaded the app were Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson, people from Fox News who have stopped tweeting months ago already, if you look at Twitter, but who are at least Sean Hannity is very active on Parler, and he is like posting and re-Parlering posts all the time. So a lot of right-wing people are on Parler, and it's on Parler, on Gap, on The Donald, on other sites. Some of them don't exist anymore, some of them exist. That right-wing fascists are planning another action for January the 17th. That would be next Sunday, 2 days or 3 days before 3 days before the inauguration. They're planning to march again to the Capitol in Washington and to every single of the 50 state capitals in the 50 states of the United States. But this time they want to march. They ask their friends and their comrades to come with arms. And if you look at the arms side, you can see that Donald Trump's fascist, right-wing, extreme supporters, they have a lot more arms than the peaceful demonstrators on the Democratic side. And with Democratic side, I don't mean Democratic Party, but the Democratic side, people who are abiding to the Constitution, abiding to democratic principles and laws have. They have a lot of guns. And I wonder, and I really am afraid about what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks and even months to come. Trump has said, that was his last tweet before his Twitter account was erased. He said that he won't attend the inauguration, and Twitter took down his account. And I wondered, why do they take down the account for him saying that he won't attend the inauguration? But other people have analyzed this and they say, well, he tells his supporters that he's not attending the inauguration, that it's free for them to attack the inauguration. They are planning this as we speak, as I speak here, and they're planning to go to Washington, they're planning to go to Salem, Oregon, they're planning to go to Albany, New York, and to all other state capitals with guns and demonstrate for their cult leader, Donald J. Trump, the worst and most dangerous president in the history of the United States. So we have to be aware, and I'm really, really worried what is going to happen over the next couple of weeks. Joe Biden has said that Joe Biden has been very presidential already. He has already said a mantra that I hear very often from American politicians when something goes wrong in America. He has said, "This is not who we are." And unfortunately, sir, with all the due respect for a president-elect of the United States, I would, if you would sit here right opposite me, I would say to you, Mr. Biden, that's not true. It's exactly who you are. Not you, Joe Biden, of course, but America is like that. To say this is not who we are is to lie, to lie to yourself. It's not true. Some of these people, some of these fascists have said they're dreaming about a new civil war. And I have thought about a civil war in the United States for months now because I'm fearing that a civil war might happen with all these heavily armed people. And then I heard this podcast, Reveal, this week, where somebody said, a journalist said, well, I don't believe in a second civil war, he said. I would say the first civil war has not ended yet. And I thought to myself, oh my God, what is he saying? And of course, there could be a long argument, a long monologue, which I'm not going to give, that this is partially true. Because there is so much work undone after the Civil War from 1865 to 1865. Work that hasn't been done. Shortly after slavery was abolished, Jim Crow was established. And today in the year of 2020, there is a big party in the United States, one of the biggest parties in the United States, that is supported by 74 million people, that questions the votes of black people, mostly black people, in Pittsburgh, in Detroit, in Milwaukee, and in Atlanta, where primarily black people and Afro-American women have voted Democratic. These votes should be ignored, says the Republican Party. Not only Donald Trump, but also the breakers, as Timothy Snyder calls them, in an excellent article in the New York Times, which is called The American Abyss, which I link down below, where he says that people like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, they are already trying to be the next president. They want to inherit, of course, from Donald Trump, the movement, the base, that they want to instigate more and more. And of course, this Don Jr. also wants to be an heir of his father. So there's still this full history of racism. So many right-wing militias. There are 170, so I looked it up today, 177 heavily armed militias in the United States, and most of them are right-wing extremists. And all of them feel emboldened. They feel supported. They feel called when the president tells them, as he said to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. So I'm still super scared what's going to happen next week. I wish you all the luck. I wish us all the luck in the world, because this is really concerning us all. If democracy falls and fails in the United States, then it will sooner or later fail and fall everywhere, and everywhere else is in danger. And one of the first German reactions of my country was that Wolfgang Schäuble, the president of the German Bundestag, of the parliament, he gave orders to strengthen the security of the German parliament, of the Bundestag, because that is not supposed to, that should not happen, that this cannot happen ever in Germany. I put down in the text section below, I have put a lot of literature about the divisiveness, right-wing extremism and fascism, literature, books that have, because this is a book channel, right? Books that have been published over the course of the last 4, 5, 6 years in the US. And I hope that you find something that is interesting to you. And I think that we should probably, next week is Black History Month, we should probably think about mixing Black History Month also by reading about the dangers that are posed to American democracy right now, both by billionaires who are supporting right-wing extremist ideology, and by the militias, and by a mixture of religious fanatism and racism, of course, which is one of the absolute top notions. Racism is I think one of the main reasons for why all this happens, and it's so shocking and it's so embarrassing. And this is enough for me for today. Please look at the list down below. 2 books that I've finished 2 books despite all of this last week, and I want to talk shortly about it. I already made a single review for Souvankham, Thammavongsa's beautiful short story collection, How to Pronounce Knife, which is a bunch of 14 short stories written about Laotian immigrants to Canada, mostly about women, apparently, obviously, because she is a woman author, and she writes about the experience of the first and the second generation, also the divide that is caused between the first and second generation of immigrants from Laos, or from Lao as the country should be called, to Canada. The winner of the Scotiabank Giller Prize of 2020, How to Pronounce Knife, Souvankham Thammavongsa. And the reason why I stayed up until 5 o'clock in the morning, I wanted to sleep. I was tired, but I couldn't sleep because the book was so captivating. And I finished this one, Winter Counts, by David Heska Wanbli Weiden. David Heska Wanbli Weiden, he is, I have to read this to be correct here, is an enrolled citizen of the Stiangul Lakota Nation. And he has written a great first novel, a debut novel, which is a thriller, but also a novel about a reservation, the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota, where his hero, Virgil Wounded Horse, an enforcer on the reservation, gets into a drug business story that threatens the life of his nephew. And I have learned so much from this book, and I will do a single review also about this one. And it finishes, without spoiling anything, it finishes with a cliffhanger that gives me the hope that both the publisher and the author are planning for a second book. This was all I had to say today. Stay safe, wear a mask, and socially distance. Be calm, and pray. If you are a believer, pray that nothing harmful happens in the United States over the course of the next week, that democracy can prevail. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.